Welcome to The Hustle with my host, yourself, Ben Anderson. And I've got a special episode today, one like none before. And you're going to want to pay attention to listen to one of the most motivating, inspiring, and courageous stories that you'll ever hear. This is Maria Reilly. She's a great friend. I've known her for going on about 5 years now, and we talk on a regular basis. And every time I talk to her, I'm motivated. She's not only a mother, surprisingly a grandmother, although you wouldn't believe if you saw her, but she is an originator. She's a long-term real estate investor. She's an entrepreneur. She's a strong woman. And most importantly, she's a cancer survivor. And in this story, you'll hear her overcoming all obstacles to be who she is today. So Maria, welcome to the podcast today.
Well, thank you, Ben. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm happy to share my story with everyone that's listening.
It's quite the story. So, I hope that you're paying close attention. Pull over and give us 30 minutes of your guys' time if you're on the road listening to this. If you're at home, put down the dishes, close the computer, turn off the TV, and just give us your undivided attention, because you're going to get a lot out of this. And I surely have by getting to know you. So obviously, we're going to talk about your courageous story and your battle and your victory over cancer. But I want to talk about your industry experience and you battling through just the market as a businesswoman. So tell us how you grew up and what was your life before kids, before mortgage? Where did you come from?
Well, my family is from Ecuador, South America. So I actually was born in Ecuador. I was born in Manta, but my parents were already living in the United States. So they were living in Massachusetts. So I grew up there until I was 14, and then my family relocated us to South Florida. So I think being relocated at 14 really started building the foundation for who I am today, because it's a tough time. I was in ninth grade. I had been with all these kids from the time I was in kindergarten, and now I'm coming to a new place. But one thing that I wanted to share with the group is my father, as an immigrant, came here with nothing, and he became the president of an electronics company. And they had a big party for us to say goodbye. And I remember the owner pulled me aside and he said to me, "Maria, I know this isn't going to be easy for you moving at this age, but you have two choices here. You can either go to Florida with a chip on your shoulder and make it hard for yourself, or you can go to Florida and be open-minded and embrace it and have a good experience and have your parents have a good experience." And I never forgot that, even as a kid at 14, because I think that's how life is. Things are going along well, and then all of a sudden something changes, and then your life gets turned upside down, like in my case with the breast cancer. But to answer your question and to stay on track, that's my background. And then, so before mortgages, I was college educated. I got married at a young age, had my daughter, worked in retail sales, left that, came to the banking world, but I was in retail banking. And then life happened again. I got divorced after being together 19 years with my husband. My daughter's 13. And I guess at that point, you find your why. So my why was my daughter, Caitlin. And I wanted to be able to be self-sufficient and provide for her. She was in private school. And even though I had a great relationship with my ex-husband, I didn't want someone to tell me, "Your daughter can't have this, you can't have that," because we don't have enough money to afford that.
That's awesome. So your background came from just being tested at an early age, and you had enough wisdom to be able to see that life happens to you, but you can set your mind on what you want. And
Right.
that was true when you got divorced. That was true when you had your daughter. So how did you get into finance, and how difficult was it as a single mother for you to do those things?
Well, I guess it goes back to who I am and the examples I had set in front of me. So my grandfather was a wholesale coffee distributor. So he was an entrepreneur. And I didn't find this out till later in life because obviously I was very young, but throughout his career, all he did was invest in real estate. He bought property, he bought oceanfront property, he bought all different types of property. And that's how he created a lot of wealth for himself. Then both my parents, they were entrepreneurs also. My father started from nothing, became the president of the electronics company. My mom, after all of us, the youngest, there was three of us, after the youngest one went to kindergarten, she was a hairdresser, cosmetology, and she just wanted to work at the best salon in town. Not only did she work there, but my father eventually bought the place for her. So that's where my spirit comes from. So when I got divorced, I said to myself, I had 5 years of banking under my belt, and I said, I want more. So my sister introduced me to a friend that was in the mortgage industry, and her story was very similar to mine. She was a single mom, and she told me, I'll never forget the first day I sat with her. She said, you can make 12,000, 15,000 a month. And for me, who worked at a bank on a W-2, that was like unheard of, and then she goes, oh, and that's nothing. You can make more than that. And I thought, wow, I can come and go as I please, and then have the ability to make all this money. But my motivation wasn't the money. It was really my daughter and my flexibility with my time. But you have to make it happen. And there was a lot of tears in the first 30 days. And my daughter was loving my life because I was picking her up after school. I was at every volleyball game. But at the same time, I was building my business. So I took a real big leap of faith to leave my W-2 job and just go into the straight commission. After 30 days, just grinding, because back then we didn't have social media, we didn't have anything. It was knocking on doors, talking to people, a lot of the things that you talk about in coaching, just getting in touch with your past clients and not keeping yourself a secret. And then when they give you the opportunity, run with it, but also do the best job that you can. So that's how I got into the business. But yeah, the first 30 days, I would say it was a lot of tears, but I just stuck to it. And then by the end of the first year, I became Rookie of the Year. I closed $22 million in purchase money. And it just completely changed my life.
So life's going good. And you ultimately end up becoming a multimillionaire. And let's just give you credit where credit is due. You worked very, very hard. You're on top of your game. You're killing it in the parent game. You're attending all your daughter's stuff. You're at the top of the mortgage industry. You own real estate. You're investing. You're savvy. I'm sure there's a line of guys waiting to date you because you're perfect on paper. You are a single parent who's came as an immigrant to this country. You've adapted. You're successful. You're in the industry. You're rolling. So you're on top of the world. Your clients love you. Your bank loves you. You and your daughter are best friends. And then talk about how you heard you had cancer. Where were you and what was that like?
Okay, well, I knew I wasn't feeling well, and I had just started PRMG. I had opened up my own franchise. Maybe we had been open a year and a half. We're doing a build out. I'm working. I'm there 8 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock at night. Still working on my business, hiring people, doing the build out with the designer, going to different types of meetings, picking out colors, this, that, and the other thing. So then I wasn't feeling well, went to the doctor. So they went ahead and did several tests. And then when the test results came back, I was at the office. Because I live in this community and I know a lot of people, the doctor was actually my client. So she calls me on the phone. She said, can I speak freely? And I was at the office and I said, yes. And then she goes, Maria, your biopsy results came back. It's stage 2 breast cancer. But because you're complaining about your lower back, we're going to do an emergency PET scan that's scheduled for tomorrow. I said, okay, fine. The next day, I go have the PET scan.
And
I come back.
This is a phone call. This is over the phone.
This is over the phone. Yes.
And what happened when you got the phone call? Were you thinking you were just sick and you just needed to get some testing done, and she was going to call you and just tell you you had the flu or pneumonia? And what was that like at that time?
Well, you get overtaken with emotion, and at the same time, it's like, it's very strange because yes, you're concerned for yourself, but you're more concerned about your family and how you're going to break it to them. you know? So, you're trying to digest all this information. And, of course I got upset. The tears started coming. And, it was funny because I was discussing this with my daughter, Caitlin, this morning before this podcast. And she said, Mom, my daughter, Caitlin, works for me. She's been mentored under me for 10 years. But at the time, she was at her office and, she was in her same company, just in her office. And she said, I remember you called me up and said, the doctor's going to call me. And then I called, my sister worked for us also. So she called my sister, and then my sister came over to my office after I got off the phone. And I said, yeah, they confirmed it is breast cancer at stage 2. And then at that point I said, we're going to go home. So I left. And then I came to the house, and then my sister came to the house. And then I called Caitlin's dad to let him know what was going on. And then he went to go be with her because she was coming to the house. And then, so the great thing is you have a family business, but the bad thing is when something happens like this, everybody exits out until we figure out the plan. The next day I had to have a PET scan. So
were you like scared, like, oh my gosh, this is life threatening? Was it like, let me get my stuff in order? Was it, let me just pray? Was it faith? Was it fear? What is it like when you hit that?
Well, okay, let's just move forward to the next day. So the next day I have the PET scan. My ex-husband took me, drops me off, and within 15 minutes, the phone rings again. My sister's here. We already knew we were going to go to one of the best hospitals in South Florida. So I had an appointment with an oncologist to go over my test results. But then I get the phone call from the doctor, and she says to me, Maria, I hate to tell you this, it's not stage 2, it's stage 4 now. And then she goes, can I speak freely? And I said, yes. And then she goes, we see it. She goes, the reason it's stage 4 is because we don't see it in your vital organs, but we see it in your bones. And then she starts listing it like a checklist. It's in this rib, it's in that rib, it's in, my lower back. It's, she names all these different places. So I'm just listening to this. So then I hang up with her, I walk out. And tragically, I had a sister who died of cancer back in 2007. So I walk out to my sister and I said, they just called me back. They said it's not stage 2, it's stage 4. And then I looked at her and I go, do you think I'm going to die like Dee died? Now that was 6 years ago. So obviously, if you're watching this, I didn't die and I'm very healthy. So what happened after that? Was I fearful? No, I wasn't fearful. I've never been fearful of this disease. And I'll tell you why, Ben, because I'm a Christian and I'm very strong in my faith. And I remember thinking, my father had a saying, he was pre-med, and he said, if the patient sleeps and eats, the patient's not going to die. And I was sleeping and eating well. Was I uncomfortable? Yes. But in my heart of hearts, right after I made that statement to my sister, she started freaking out. But then I said to myself, I know I'm not going to die. God put that on my heart, and it was true.
So what was your journey like in your path to healing yourself? Because we see you here looking like you never had a problem in the world. And so how did you get through that to be where you are? You mentioned faith, which we're on the same page. And was it just faith? Was it will? Was it your history? If someone's listening to this podcast, one in how many people are going to get the disease? So people on this that are listening are going to be faced with this. What can you tell them? So when they're faced with either this disease or some other disease or some other tragedy, how can they draw from your strength when they go through something? I want them to think, WWMD, what would Maria do? How did she get through this?
Well, I will tell you, it definitely turned my life upside down because it was doctor's appointments after doctor's appointments. But I did meet with my oncologist the next day. And I remember her picking up my PET scan and she said, you're very sick, but you're going to get through this and you're not going to die. It's not a death sentence. So right there was confirmation of how I was feeling. Now, we had a lot of work to do. So all I could say is just like anything else, there's a plan and you follow the plan, and you have to get in your mindset. I'm not saying you're not going to have a bad day. trust me, you're going to have bad days when they're giving you radiation, chemo. It's all happening to you at the same time. You feel like crap. The only thing I can compare it to is the pandemic that we just went through. Okay, 1 minute, everybody's moving along, everybody's living life, and the next minute we're all in lockdown. But in my case, it was just me, and everybody else's life is going on. But if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. So I would just have to take one day at a time because it's too much. If you start, and the other thing that I would recommend to people is listen to your doctor, and also don't try to research this on the internet, because there's a lot of garbage out there. And when you talk about your mind is such a powerful thing that if you start getting in your head, because I remember one time I Googled something like life expectancy, stage 4 breast cancer. Well, it wasn't very good, right? But then again, everybody's different. So up until the point I got sick, I had been healthy my whole entire life. So in my head, I was beating this. It didn't even matter to me what some of the test results, and I was fortunate because even though it was bad, the diagnosis, the test results always came back better than what the doctors expected. And even when test results weren't good or when they were concerned, the Lord would just send me angels throughout my journey. And I could just hear him speaking to me or speaking to me through different people and just giving me that encouragement that I needed at that moment to go on. And there's a million God stories I can tell you, but I know we don't have time for that. But what I would say to people is, you can't control what happens to you, but you can control how you handle it. And it's not easy, but
that's what you learned when you were 14. You couldn't control that you're moving and having to restart your life, but you can control your mindset. I mean, I would think just by listening to you that the mind is the strongest organ in the body. And if you set your mind on something, your body can kind of follow. And especially if you have faith in something that's bigger than yourself, and you believe that you have a purpose and you have a calling, you have to realize that it's really out of your control anyway. So you might as well face whatever adversity you have with your mind that you're going to beat this thing.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the thing about cancer is it doesn't discriminate. It doesn't matter what color you are. It doesn't matter what your heritage is like. It doesn't matter, what your age is. If all of us think about it, we know somebody who's gone through it or they're going through it at the time. But I just want to encourage everyone that there's hope and then to make the most of every single day. Even with my sister who didn't make it and she passed, her attitude was always so grateful for every day that she did have on this earth.
Think about how much better life would be if everybody approached every day thankful for just one more day.
Right.
Why worry about where you're going to be in 30 years? Because that's not guaranteed. Like just take this one day that you have and just be so appreciative that you were given this opportunity to have this day. I'm so thankful that I get to be on this podcast with you today. I'll deal with whatever happens tomorrow when tomorrow comes, but I'm going to give today just the best attitude that I possibly can. And I'll win today. And tomorrow's a brand new day. You're super strong for sharing this story. Tell us about where you are in your recovery and in your treatment and your business and your life today.
Well, okay. So my after I got into remission, the plan was to be on some type of chemo maintenance. The doctors had said, the conventional doctor said, for the rest of my life. In my head, I said 5 years because the diagnosis was pretty, severe. And it's something you can't, just say, oh, even though in my head, I would always tell my doctors, I know you're telling me I'm sick, but I don't really have cancer. I just have to go through the process of getting better. But so in my head, it was 5 years because they always say, if you survive 5 years, you're probably going to be here. But then COVID happened and then the vaccine happened. So after I took the vaccine, I just started getting very, very ill. So I knew I couldn't continue down that road. And in my heart, I always felt like I was fine. So I seeked out alternative medicine and I went to a functional doctor. So talk about courage, because here you are, you're taught your whole life, you don't go against what your doctor says and you have to follow what they tell you. But I'm here to tell everyone that's listening on this podcast, you know your body the best. And if you think that something's not right, just research an alternative and be the best advocate of your health. So what I found on the functional side is they look at Maria as Maria, the patient, and not the case studies behind the diagnosis. So this doctor sent my blood to an oncology lab in Europe, very specialized, to determine my diagnosis, how much cancer was in my body, everything known to man, holistic and chemo wise, because he's integrated, that would kill the stem cell of this cancer. So over here, they treat the cancer. And yes, they saved my life. And I'm so grateful for that. And I'm not knocking conventional medicine, but it was also making me very sick. So these doctors, they want to get you better, build your immune system so you can continue and have a healthy and fulfilling life. So I found this new doctor. The blood work comes back. To my surprise and the doctor's surprise, what I had been diagnosed with was negative now. So that was a huge blessing. But there was another different type, a small little detection of a different type of breast cancer, but very little. So he gave me a plan. It was a 10-week program. I've completed 8 of the 10 weeks. And I had a PET scan. Everything basically is cleared up. He put me on maintenance, and I responded really well. And I feel great. It's still an adjustment because it's been a full-time job. As far as my career goes, one thing I've learned is if you build your book of business the right way, you're not just doing files, you're building relationships and long-term clients for life. So when they call and my assistant says she's not available, she's going to be out for a few weeks, or if you need to talk to her, and I can find the strength to call and speak to them, because the treatments were all day. It was basically 9 to 5. So, you don't have much of energy left for anything. But your clients understand, and these are people, this is my 20th year in the business. So far I had a phenomenal year when rates are bad and inventory's low and nobody wants to refinance. But, I'm at the end of this plan going into maintenance. So I'm looking forward to jumpstarting my business again and continue building off of what I built over the last 20 years.
I mean, what incredible courage, what incredible faith, and what incredible process you have for processing things that don't go your way. And I think the biggest takeaway, if I'm going to give everyone one thing to apply to your life and your business, is have a process for when things don't go the way that you've planned.
Mhm.
And have a process for processing unexpected circumstances, whether it be loss of a job, loss of a loved one, loss of income, just loss of time. It's just, the process has to be, let me just do the best I can today.
Right.
And I'll get better every day, and I'll face tomorrow with courage and with faith. And when you have courage to run into that burning building and you have faith that you're going to be protected, then you can just follow your process. So your story is incredible. You look amazing. You sound amazing. I'm so glad that now you have a grandson to share this story with. You inspire me every time that, we can catch up. And I just thought that people who were going through something that was life altering needed to hear from someone like you that's been, look the face of death square in the eyes and is still here to be doing it. So your story has to be heard. People have to follow you and have to be inspired by what you're going to do, because I think the best is in front of you. I think this is just like halftime of your story. You should write a book, you should, speak, you should do a lot more things with this, because it's such an inspiring moment. How can people get behind you and find you and learn more about you and your story and journey?
Well, I'm on Instagram and I'm on Facebook. And right now I'm staying on the West Coast. I'll be going back, like I said, Sunday. And that was the other thing. I found this wonderful condo, right, direct ocean. So I walk on the beach at night, or, in the morning, on the weekends or whatever. And they have beautiful sunsets. It's so therapeutic. And it's like you said, just being grateful for today and grateful for my life, and just just appreciating little things like nature, or just my mom is with me. She's been so gracious enough to dedicate 3 months of her life with me over there, or almost 4 months now. But and so you'll see a lot of that. And then I'll start talking a lot about the business and what's going on. And this is the thing, right now, talking about the economy and everything is relevant to what is going on. So, we had a global pandemic. The Fed lowered the Fed fund rate to 0. That's something that's unheard of. And then they started buying back all the mortgage-backed securities. So that made our rates really, really low. But to keep everything in perspective, our rates were probably around 3.75 to 4. So right now, even though we're in the 6s and everything, it's still a great time to buy. It's an investment for the future. And real estate has made such a big difference in my life and has created so much wealth for myself and for my family. And then also leaving a legacy of this business, training my daughter, Caitlin, training my 2 sisters, my cousin. We're a family business. But I just want to encourage everyone to just know that real estate is always a great option. Life does happen. Be appreciative for every single moment. Just maybe hug your kids. And when your spouse says to you, can you go do this with me? And you really don't want to do it, make the time to do it, because you never know if you're going to have that time the next day, So, but yeah, it's been an incredible journey and such a blessing, good and bad that's happened to me, because I think I've come out the other side a different person, a stronger person.
And I hope that the purpose of your faith and your process has been to give other people the courage that might not have had it to face the things that you did. So how can people find you on Instagram and on Facebook?
Okay, well, they can find me as maria.m.reilly. And then that's on Instagram. And then on Facebook, I'm just Maria Reilly.
And Reilly is Reilly.
Yes, Reilly.
So guys, get behind Maria. We'll have this on YouTube. It's going to get lots of inspiring comments. We'll also put it up on the podcast on Spotify and Apple and all the normal spots where you can follow along. But thanks for taking time out of your busy day and your treatment and your family to give us a glimpse into your life. And if we have a lot of questions and follow up, maybe we'll do this again.
Okay, yeah. And if they have any questions, or if they, for me, they can always DM me also. I'm always happy to, be there to encourage other survivors or people going through this, or maybe it's a family member listening and their family member who's going through this is having a very, tough time. I've been very grateful, and just, to give the opportunity to speak to someone else. That's a big blessing for me, to see.
That's a huge offer. If you guys are going through something, or someone else is going through cancer or a life-threatening scare, and you want to know how Maria did it, just DM her, and that's a great offer. So thanks for being a great friend and giving us some time and offering up your availability to our listeners. And God bless you, and we love you, and I can't wait to catch up with you after this call.
All right. Thank you, Ben, so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to your followers also.
Thanks, Maria. Talk to you soon.
Right, thank you. Okay. Bye.
Okay.